As we begin reading a book this year, the book is Le Bureau des mots perdus. We will begin, before we read each chapter, we'll begin with a little grammar lesson. And in some cases, that will be grammar that we have not covered before. And in other cases, it'll be a review of something that we've seen. This one for the first chapter happens to be le participe présent, which is something we haven't covered in our 3 previous years if you've been with us at TA. And the participe présent, the present participle, I'll read to you what it says in French and then I'll explain a little bit in English since I'm not there to explain it in person. Le participe présent d'un verbe en français se termine en ant et c'est l'équivalent de ing en anglais. So present participle of a French verb ends in ant and it's the equivalent of the ing verb ending in English. Pour former le participe présent, pour tous les verbes, sauf 3 exceptions, on commence avec la forme nous au présent et on laisse tomber la terminaison ons. Puis on ajoute ant. So just like we did with the imperfect verb tense, we're going to begin with a nous conjugation of the present tense. So if we look at our examples down here for regular verbs, so parler, la forme nous parlons, and then we're going to laisse tomber, we're going to drop the ons, leaving us with parl, and then on ajoute, we add ant. So our present participle here, parlant, speaking or talking. Finir, nous finissons. So when we drop the ons, we keep the iss, and we have finissant. And voir was nous voyons. Drop the ons. Voyant. We have 3 exceptions because it wouldn't be French without a few exceptions to the rule. Avoir, we're going to use ayant for the present participle. Être, étant, accent changing from the circumflex in the infinitive to the accent aigu in the present participle. And savoir, sachant, knowing. So we've got having, being, and knowing for those 3 irregular present participles. So next thing on this paper, I gave you some sentences that use a present participle, and I'm not going to write them out in English for you, but you'll add them in as you follow along, pause as needed so that you can write. Sachant le danger, je n'y suis pas allé. So sachant is our present participle there. Knowing. Knowing the danger, I didn't go there. Ayant faim, il a mangé tout le gâteau. Ayant is the present participle, having. So having hunger, or we would translate that better in English as being hungry. He ate the whole cake. Une fille lisant un livre est venue au café. So lisant, a girl reading a book. And that's a typo. There should not be an E on there. It should be un livre. So a girl reading a book came to the cafe. Elle lisait en mangeant. The mangeant, which of course has that E in there because the GA combination would be pronounced as mangant. So just like we did with the imperfect way back in French too, when we've got an A after a G, we're going to put an E in between for pronunciation. So elle lisait en mangeant. She was reading while eating. C'est en pratiquant que vous le faites bien. Pratiquant. So it's by practicing that you do it well. And les médecins parlant français ont aidé les malades français. So the doctors speaking French, or we could even say the French-speaking doctors, if that sounds a little more natural in English, helped the French patients, the sick people who are French. Sounds a little more natural in French than it does in English. All right, but when you're using the present participle here, there are some times when we use the ing ending in English where you're not going to use the ant. And part of that is because in English we have a present continuous and a past continuous form. Spanish uses it, English uses it, but French does not. So something like, for the first one, pour parler de ce qu'on fait maintenant, to express what you're doing right now. I am eating, currently happening. You might be tempted to use this present participle mangeant and conjugate it as something like je suis mangeant, which is not something we're going to say in French because the present tense, je mange, as we've talked about through the years, is I eat, I am eating, I do eat. If you really want to emphasize that it's happening presently right now, we have that expression en train de or être en train de. Je suis en train de manger, which is emphasizing the fact that the eating is happening right now. It's like in the process of. I am in the process of eating. Another verb, after another verb. So in English, we'll put 2 verbs together, and a lot of times we'll put the second verb in the ing ending. I like reading, which might tempt you to say something like j'aime lisant, in French, which was not what we want to say. We're going to use the second verb as the infinitive, j'aime lire. So we'd be saying I like to read as opposed to I like reading. Or you can say j'aime la lecture. So la lecture is the noun form of reading. We don't want to use the present participle verb form of it. We need to use the noun of reading. And then in English, there are also times where we will utiliser un verbe comme un nom. We'll use a verb like a noun. So when we use a verb as the subject of a sentence, a lot of times in English, we end that with ing. An example like seeing is believing. But in French, this is just a good proverb to know. When you're using a verb as the subject of the sentence in French, you're going to use that verb as the infinitive, not as a present participle. So if we want to say seeing is believing, we'll say voir, c'est croire. So at this point, I'm also going to publish the first chapter of the story for you. I do not expect you to do this vocabulary stuff right now, anything that's, or the questions that are on the rest of this document. All I'd like you to submit is that you have followed along with this video and you have your notes filled out here. You'll submit that. Take a look at the story, read through chapter 1, see what you can understand. If you understand it really well, great. If you don't, that's okay. We're going to read it together in class when I can be there, which will hopefully be next week. But take a look at it, give it a read, see what you can understand. You don't need to do anything else with this document besides the part that I have just explained to you here. So go ahead and post that, take a read through chapter 1, and you'll be all set.